So when you go into the AliExpress jungle, you can find so many cool devices. I want to do a quick revisiting of the laptop arcade player 7-inch because this thing has some cool features I didn't show you in the main review. Okay, so this thing came with 100 plus built-in games, and the games were nothing like your NES, Super NES or MAME whatsoever. No, they were like your weird looking, let's say, Android games. So this thing has a lot of potential. I really liked it. It doesn't have like a real micro joystick. It's like your wiggle joystick you have seen on a freaking controller. But still, before we're going to talk about the new feature, let's do a quick recap about what's inside the machine and what can we play. I think the jungle was quite big enough and they didn't want to make new ones, but this new tabletop edition, or they called it a laptop arcade player, I find it still a very strange name. I find the model very intriguing and that's the reason I just needed to pick it up. Not only for the collection, getting these things out of the box is all like a freaking nightmare, and plastic fantastic. But the first impression is that they are giving us, let's say, a full plastic fantastic 7-inch awesome piece of a mini arcade. It's still going to get ourselves the analog joystick, like the wiggle stick. I'm not a big fan of those things, but okay, that is something we just need to live with. Inside we're going to get the toilet paper manual like always, because yeah, look at this. That's not really something like a user manual. Like, what do you need to do with that? It comes with the cable for charging it. But also later on, we're going to do and see, let's just look up what we can do when it comes to emulation and can we play some naughty games on it. I have been waiting to make this video for a very long time, and the main reason is I just wanted to be messing around with it a lot. But where the previous models were, let's say, especially like focused on emulation, this system comes with their own unique games, including some shmups but also some beat 'em ups. Games like Steam Gear or Furified are one of those games that we'll be including in this cabinet. But let's boot it up and let's see what we're going to get. But let's take a close look at the front panel. So we're going to just getting the old school membrane buttons, there's nothing really arcade about it. The same goes for the analog stick. It's like an analog stick. It's great on a controller, but for an arcade stick like this, I'm not the biggest fan. The volume control, we're going to get these cheap clickies buttons. Here we're going to get select, start and the back button. At the back we're going to get ourselves the on and off switch, the micro USB 5-volt in. There is no charger, so you need to get yourself one of those separately. And we're going to get here the headphone jack out, and we're going to get an TF slot because it is possible to add games. Like the box already mentioned, it's a 7-inch TFT panel. This is not an IPS. In other words, the viewing angle is not great. So the system itself is running on a kind of a weird Android edition, but let's take a close look at that. So the loading times are quite long, as you can see over here. I booted up, started making this part of the video, but the loading time takes quite long. Okay, so at the front we're going to get more like this bezel. I personally really like it, but it's kind of glossy. And yeah, in combination with the viewing angle here, you can see like I need to put the camera in the perfect position, otherwise we're going to get like not a very good result when it comes to recording. There is no touchscreen, so you're going to need to use this freaking joystick. You can see like the volume control seems to be working just fine. It goes basically like with step by step when you're pressing it once, or you can hold the freaking button. Okay, so I adjusted the camera simply because we're going to get a better result with recording. So here we're going to get the main menu. It's kind of a weird looking Android. I think they're using Android, a very old one, but they're just basically getting a sort of an interface. Here we're going to get Furified, Rapture Void, Fighting Masters, Steam Gear, and we're having all kinds of weird games. So here we're going to get the more games and the arcade emulator. So like I say, the more games, it's more games like the weird 16-bit-ish flash game stuff. So if this thing comes with 100 games, it's kind of weird because I don't see them. Let's take a close look at the arcade emulator. Here you can see we're going to get the option to add a TF card. So there is no TF card inside. I did messing around with it, but that's something we're going to dedicate a different video on, simply because it's going to be a lot of mumbo jumbo getting this thing to work. And the question remains, what can we play then? Okay, so let's take a close look at the settings. We can open it up. Here we can change some things like language, the screen brightness. This thing goes super bright. So let's put it on the brightest, simply because it's better for recording. We're having here the sleep mode. You can put it in like in a couple of minutes, stuff like that. Here you can see like a couple of seconds. If you don't want to use it, I put it on never. And then we're going to get the theme. I'm going to use the black theme because I think it's better for your eyes. So this is what we're going to get with the main menu. There's nothing much to see, so let's try some games and let's see how good or how bad these things are. Starting with Fighting Fury or Fury Fighting. Yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna be honest, I don't know if you can download this from the Play Store or the Apple Store. So the music itself sounds kind of cool. And the internal speaker that is on the bottom goes quite loud. But don't crank it all the way up to 100% because you're going to get like this cracking noise. There's quite a lot of bass in it. Alright, new game. Let's put them easy mode. It even has like a save function. Yep, start new game. You can choose between 3 different characters. I must say that I really love how this looks, how it sounds. So that's pretty cool. The loading times are quite fast. But what I like about this cabinet in general is like it comes with something unique. Or it comes not like with your typical emulation stuff that you have seen before. Okay, so let's take a close look at this all. We're going to get an introduction of the game itself and everything that's going on in it. Okay, so let's take a close look at the first game. And this absolutely looks like a Flash game. So the analog stick does have a minor, let's say, dead zone, but it is quite responsive. But I've been playing this game for some time and I must say that it's quite a lot of fun to play. It's like a basic beat 'em up game, nothing really fancy. Does get some special moves like this. I love the screaming sound. Whoa, whoa. Such a weird thing. When we're looking at this, it's a quite interesting game to play and I think it's a lot of fun. So far I know it's only 1 player. And because you have no idea like if you can attach any extra controllers, that would be cool. There's also no TV out, so this thing will dedicate like a mini arcade itself. Okay, so next up, let's try Rapture Void. It's a fighting game. I must say I like how everything looks. Well, let's take a close look at the gameplay. So the learning times are quite long, I think, for this type of game systems. Some game will have like a couple of seconds, but some will have like a very long time. It would be cool to have some Mugen on this thing. But yeah, then we're still having an issue with the wiggle stick. Loading times, we're back in the freaking 90s. Loading times, it's freaking awful, all this thing. Loading times are a pain in the ass. Oh, there it is.
Round 1.
Ready, fight!
Okay, so when playing this game, it's like actually like playing a game with 30 FPS or something like that. I don't know if this game is actually kind of good because this is like... And having a wiggle stick doesn't help the fact that we cannot do any moves or barely any moves. It's by the way the first time I ever played it, but... So the animation itself are quite funny, to be honest, but if this is actually a good fighting game, I think not. Okay, so the next game I wanted to try out is the Steam Gear. And like when I'm looking at Steam Gear, the first thing that comes in mind is freaking Metal Slug. Okay, so they didn't rip off the music or something like that. But let's see if it's actually like a good game. So we're having a story, tutorial, stuff like that. But it's absolutely nothing to do with Metal Slug, this is just a shooter. Okay. The only thing I can do is use my grappling hook and shoot. But the shooting is just a freaking nightmare if you think about it. Like, you move and you give the direction to your gun at one joystick. So that makes this game, in my opinion, quite difficult to play. But Fighting Master Ultimate. So we can just choose fight or... Oh, I need to press start. But this game looks pretty damn good. Let's choose the rip-off Ken or Ryu. Okay, so that fight was absolutely ripped from Street Fighter. Whoa, this is not a Street Fighter clone. I'm now playing again. Yep, playing against a rip-off Sagat and a rip-off Ryu. Okay, so the first thing I'm noticing is like I did have the option to do some moves. So the analog stick mini arcade is not super bad. Let me guess. So I was having this move. Let's see if we can do another one. Yep, absolutely, they ripped off Street Fighter in every single way. Well, in combination with the analog stick again, it doesn't play that bad. They did configure every button like it should be, in my opinion. Here are the buttons for the punching, and they put it like low, medium, high. Don't know if I can basically like configure anything. Like push inputs. No, I don't think you can do basically like it shows like what you can do. We're going to get in a list. That's pretty damn cool. Okay, so next up I just wanted to highlight, let's say, the most important games. And this is one of them. Like, this is quite interesting. This is a racing game. Looks kind of funny. Loading times of some of the games are faster than the other one. That is something I've noticed. Let's see how the racing game actually works. It's a three-dimensional racing game. So it's pretty damn awesome. It comes also with some challenges, and if you want to play them and upgrade your car and stuff like that, it's all possible. Just your typical racing game, nothing really fancy. You can see like we're having the upgrades where you can shoot it at your opponents. The controls are kind of weird of the game, but they play actually good with the analog stick. Let's see if I can find the freaking button. Oh, you just basically tap the acceleration button to activate your power up. Yeah, that's kind of weird configuration of buttons, but okay. Alright, so let's remove the rubber feet and let's take a close look in the inside, because this thing runs on Android, but I'm really curious what it is. So I couldn't get in the main Android firmware, like everything has been locked out. Maybe in the future people will figure out how to get into it, because it would be cool to basically mess around with this device and maybe add some emulators yourself, because that would be very cool. But the question remains, what are the specs? There's nothing inside of the manual or whatsoever about the battery. So let's take a close look in the inside. Ooh, bumping my camera. Alright, so I've removed all of the freaking Parkers. Let's see if we can do a teardown now, or if something have been glued together or whatsoever. So the first thing I'm noticing, there is not really a notch or something that I can grab to do this teardown. Let's put my screen over in and let's see if I can get it out like that. Yep, there it is. Okay. We need to be very gentle. It looks like there is something underneath. Oh, there's not a lot of... Oh, no. There is not a lot of space over here. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to remove the speaker itself. Doing it out of camera. And the lithium battery that is inside. Alright. Don't want to, like, rip and tear. So okay, so here we're going to get ourselves the battery inside. It is a 4000 milliamp, and what I love about these things, like, you can always replace them if you're going to get some problems with it. So something I noticed is like, this is just a basic model you can maybe pick up. They did some extension over here, and here we're going to get the speaker. And funny thing is, like, both of these will give a lot of weight to the freaking mini PC. So let's get myself a tiny Phillips screwdriver and let's see how the speaker looks, because it's quite interesting to put this thing in the box itself. Wicked really loves to do his teardowns, like just to see what is inside. This construction is quite interesting because I'd never personally seen it before. Normally they just like slap the freaking speaker on the piece of plastic, put some hot glue and some screws in, and it's freaking place and just go and just be done with it. But this time we're going to get ourselves a quite interesting construction. Alright, so let's open this bad boy up. Let's see. Holy crap. So that explains why this thing had quite a lot of bass. I think if you're going to be having a better amplifier, you're going to get even a better sound. I don't know if you can remove it like this. No, it's stuck in here. I'm just going to leave it in here and let's see what we're going to get. It's a 4 ohm 3 watt speaker. But look at this freaking magnet and on this tiny speaker. So that is quite nice. Let's put it back together, by the way. Alright, so this is what we're going to get in the inside. So it's clear to see that we're going to get a PCB over here. There's one for all the inputs and outputs, for example the audio out and the input for the power. Here we're going to get the mainboard itself, and at the front we're already noticing a quality issue because they forgot to put a screw back in. So that's something we're going to do now. Didn't hear it in the inside, but it's a little bit of a bummer. They just forget it, and the main problem will be maybe that we're going to get some problems with the freaking PCB over here. So it's something I'm going to put in later on, but here you can see everything has been connected with these cables. So let's take a close look at the mainboard. Let's see if I can rip it off. Yep, I can. They're just using these weird, let's see, weird glue cooler paste stuff. Let's remove this one too, and let's clean it up. And let's take a close look at this tiny mainboard. I almost want to say that this thing is like an old school Android box they slapped inside this device, but that's not clearly the case simply because of the connections, of course. But they're using this old school Allwinner A32E chip. I don't know if you can read it. I did try to clean it up, but it's also like very strangely like put on the chip itself. Then here you're going to get yourself the flash chip for the memory, and what I understand of this here are the 4 RAM chips. But the RAM chip I couldn't like find any information how much it is. I'm guessing it would be around 2 gigabytes or something like that, or maybe 4. But most of the time they're using old school tech like the Allwinner. So it's going to be not really fancy. There is some modification on the mainboard itself. Don't know why this is. But here we're going to get this red wire has been soldered into this position here, all the way going over there. And yeah, there's a ribbon cable goes to the on and off switch, or the PCB here at the top. And then we're going to get a cable that I already pulled off, but this basically belongs in here. So when it comes to the specification, it's nothing really fancy, but that was something I would not expect for a very cheap device like this. Okay, so I have been messing around with the SD card. I managed to find a 32 gigabyte one that has been formatted on the right format, otherwise the freaking device doesn't understand what is going on, so it doesn't recognize the SD card. Alright, so if you have set it to the right format, what you need to do is make a folder, and basically the second folder need to have a certain name, otherwise it doesn't notice any file systems. Absolutely like a difficult way to put it all together. I've been messing around with different kind of files, but none of them seem to be working. The only files that they recognize are the main games. You need to put them in a certain folder, or you just can basically slap them in the SD card. It doesn't matter. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed when it comes to that. Alright, so let's take a close look at the feature I was most excited about. And the reason why, because it would be so cool to have like this tabletop look-alike mini device that we have option to add like new games. So I finally add some games. I've been messing around for a very long time to figure out how it works. And I can say it was quite disappointing how it works and what you're going to get. So you cannot plug in like a bigger card than 32 gigabyte, and the reason why is because this thing doesn't support it anymore. Doesn't matter, because you're not going to need it. Alright, well, booting on, you're just going to do the same thing that we did in the main review or the recap. So basically what you're going to get over here is the Steam Gear loading. You're going to get the same menu, and what we need to choose inside the menu is of course the SD function. But here we're going to get the disappointing part. Personally, I really liked the homebrew games or the Android games on it, pretty damn cool. So here we had the arcade emulator. So I was thinking, alright, cool. So let's see what we're going to get. Yeah, so basically we can mess around with the internal like same emulator, but the only thing that we're going to get is actually like arcade games. So that's the only thing they can add. There was no way of NES, Super NES, Mega Drive and all the other stuff. I tried it, but it doesn't work. But let's give you like a quick overview of some gameplay and to give you like the idea like how good the performance is of this machine. So the loading time of this device is absolutely super cool and very fast, depending of course what kind of game size you're using. So the first game we're going to try is this Alien vs Predator A game I've played a lot of my original Capcom stick. Such a fun game to play. But you can hear that it stuttered here and there. But the idea behind it is pretty damn cool. They can add your own games. But the main problem is with these main games that we need to have like the right emulator or emulator with the right main set. Otherwise we don't have the option to boot it up. So getting this to work, it's going to be like absolutely a big pain. The display they're using, I already mentioned it, like it's not like an IPS panel, but it looks very nice, and even on a certain angle. Because I'm sitting behind my camera, and even then it seems to be looking very good. Super Magazine! I've got the power, get the power of a predator! Okay, so what I wanted to show you, when you're pressing the select start, you're going to get the option for getting into the emulator settings. So it's pretty damn cool. So if you have some issues or you want to mess with the aspect ratio, stuff like that, you can basically like do that over here. But take note, this thing is not super powerful, and even with the speed hack, some games won't run. Of course, we're going to do the ultimate benchmark, and yeah, Mortal Kombat doesn't run at all. I've been messing around with the speed hack, and nothing helps out. This thing is completely underpowered for running this. Would be very cool to play this game on this tiny tabletop. Alright, so I want to try a different game that is normally like less demanding, but it does still have some issues. So that's kind of a bummer in my opinion, that we do have like a lot of mixed performance, despite that we're only having like one single kind of a system that runs on this, and that is MAME. I don't know if I ever mentioned it, but the speaker in this thing is pretty damn loud. But what you can see, like, it's absolutely like just a gamble which game will run fine. And this one doesn't even run perfectly. You can see the slowdowns. But okay, so this is basically what are we going to get. It's just safe to say that this is absolutely like a mixed performance. Unfortunate, for example, Mortal Kombat doesn't even run and many other games. And we don't have emulators like an GBA or an 8-bit, 16-bit. We're only limited to arcade, and that even has some mixed performance. Let me know what you think of this. Would you consider like having something in your collection like this for the Android games and a couple of arcade games, or should you like skip it at all? Well, thank you for watching. Consider subscribing, hit that little bell, become the Wicked family, and it will be great to see you in the next video.